Although the spawn is not a deadly combatant, it is fast, small, and can be extremely annoying. Often heard way before being seen, listen out for their distinct noise to avoid being taken by surprise. They are always worth prioritising as part of an attacking melee group. When engaged by them, simply strafe. Doing so when they leap at you makes you impossible to hit. They have a very long recovery time once they land. You can then close the distance and make them a quick and easy kill. If you thought knives were just for eating, think again. They can be a reasonably quick and quiet way to deal with sidestepped spawns. A single swing will take out a rift anomaly, and a few swipes can finish off a fragment. And with a little practice, they can become an effective throwing weapon. I personally find throwing underarm is easiest. Point the tip where you want the knife to go, keep the distance short, then push the knife towards the enemy in a stabbing motion as you let go. A great way to silently deal with and conserve ammunition on individual fragments and phantoms. Weapons at full condition sell for more, and if you're looking at getting the most out of that expensive cleaning spray, you'll want to be scrubbing in batches. Start by stacking multiple guns and magazines in and around the vise, then give them one pass of spray. When you go in with the toothbrush, dual wield to speed things up. Once your weapons hit the blue status, it's time for the ramrod. Position all your weapons along a table edge with the barrel facing out, and while going through the motions, keep spawning cleaning paper close to the ramrod tip. Although artifacts in the radius are a great source of income, some of them actually have a use. While gripping an artifact, press the trigger to activate. The Night Eye will give you a poor man's version of night vision. The Steps artifact will make your footprints visible, whereas the Regen artifact will slowly heal you whilst it's activated. While in use, all of these artifacts' conditions will deteriorate. Know that the condition of an artifact affects the sell price. The better the condition of an artifact, the more it'll sell for. As you know by now, the tide coming in is inevitable. But how does it work? When the timer hits 0, a mist will descend and the boundaries of the map will slowly close into the centre. When you are touched by this boundary wall, you will be randomly teleported to an area on the outskirts of the map. All enemies and items within the radius will be reset, with the exception of anything that you have picked up and dropped in the radius. The only way to avoid being swept up and dumped by the tide is to take shelter back at home base or at a safe house. Although learning how to play dress up and searching for super potatoes are a mandatory part of your training, free mode is something you may have either overlooked or forgotten about. Here you can test every item, weapon, ammunition and attachment that you can buy in the shop, and as the name of the mode suggests, you can do it all for free. An excellent place to familiarise yourself with weapons and their attachment combinations before making a purchase. You can also hone various weapon handling skills by making use of the target ranges and the kill house. Attachment points are a fantastic way to up the utility and effectiveness of a weapon. They can increase your firepower, assist with your accuracy, light the way, make firing quieter, and make you more effective at distance. You will need the corresponding rail or attachment point before you can attach. Depending on the weapon, you can add or change these attachment points at the upgrade station. Remember that once fixed, these attachments can be removed in the dressing mode. Always take into account your current inventory of attachments before you splash out on that next big weapon. Adding a flashlight to your weapon will allow you to cut through the darkness while still being ready to fire. Note that multiple flashlights on the weapon will increase the brightness, whereas the laser pointer is excellent at increasing your accuracy at that close to mid-range by giving you a point of reference. When two-handing a weapon, use the B or Y button in the supporting hand to turn them on and off. Having an attachment on or off when attached will affect how they cycle. Turn an attachment on by pressing trigger with it in your hand. When aiming at mid to long range, concentration mode is entered by pressing A or X on the respective hand that supports the weapon. Although it doesn't slow time, it does slow your input when aiming. This can really help with keeping those crosshairs on target over distance. Do note that you can stay in concentration mode infinitely. Pressing the same button, releasing your supporting hand or lowering the weapon will cancel. Sawn-off shotguns, pistols and SMGs are unable to do this with the exception of the full PPSh. For playing the long distance game, scopes are the answer, and within the Rail B attachments there are two scopes that can actually be adjusted. The Spectr defaults to 4x magnification and can be brought back to 1x by pulling this lever, whereas the traditional sniper scope starts at 7x magnification by default and can be incrementally adjusted all the way up to 35x magnification using this dial. When engaging over distance, always make use of concentration mode to steady those crosshairs. Time is one of your most important resources in the radius, and this is simply because of the tide. Although it does replenish all the loot on the maps, it also repopulates them all with enemies. Save time by doing as much admin, maintenance and planning back at home base where time passes at a normal rate. Be quick and efficient with your runs into the radius where time passes much faster. Only sleep to the next closest hour if you are doing so to heal, and remember that going out at night is an option. There are no penalties for sleep deprivation. Going over 50 kilograms of weight will reduce you to a crawl and stop you sprinting. However, while something's airborne, it weighs nothing at all. Let me give you an example. You're on the way back to base from a good day's looting, and you spot a crate. And that crate contains a gun. Picking that gun up will put you over 50 kilograms. However, if you were to throw that gun, you are no longer over 50 kilograms. Keep the throw short, be particularly careful around anomalies, and stop throwing when you are approaching the exit of a map. Knowing how to quickly check the status of your weapon or magazine is a good thing. They call this a dead man's click for a reason. With all magazines you can visually check that there are rounds in there. With a magazine in hand, holding B or Y on the respective control pad will tell you exactly how many rounds you have left and what the next round loaded will be. Doing the same on a weapon will tell you what is ready to be fired, providing you have one in the chamber, which you can confirm by performing a press check, sliding the bolt back just enough to be able to see brass. Route planning between the different maps in the radius is an essential skill. Not only can it save you a lot of time, it can also help you avoid particularly dangerous or nasty areas. Ensure you exit via the guidelines to make sure you end up where you want to be going, and know that each exit point leads to a specific entrance to the map that you are going to. The map shown will show you exactly what point is linked to what. Also note that the green home and flag marker will always send you back to base. What you undoubtedly know by now is that each point you leave the map via is connected to another specific point. What you may not know is that by leaving the map between these points will transport you to somewhere else. You will take a 2-hour penalty for doing so, but the upshot is that you can be transported across the map without having to fight all the nasty stuff in between. Note that you could also save before leaving the map via this method, and simply reload if the location you are transported to is not desirable. Levitating items is not an essential skill, although it could be considered desirable if you're somebody who likes to organise your gear. Whilst holding an item, place another item on top of it and let go. Balance this item for approximately 10 seconds and it will remain in its finishing position. I find big boxes of ammunition and the guitar guide are best. However, you can use your map in combination with most items. Using this technique, you can create all of the holders and shelves you'll ever need. So what is the most effective way to replenish your stamina in the game? That's right, it's smoking. Each cigarette you fully consume will replenish 10% of your stamina. Each one is the equivalent of $2.50, almost as nutritious as most food items, with a full packet weighing next to nothing and containing more portions than canned goods. Although they can take time to consume, removing the cigarette on the exhale and then reapplying will easily allow you to half the time it takes to smash through a cigarette. Just remember to bring that lighter. All of the break action shotguns, as well as the spaz and pump action, feature an ammo holder on their side, with the Mosin rifle having one on its stock, giving you a more convenient way to reload. You can load this by placing single rounds of ammunition there. Another would be whilst holding a box of ammunition, press and hold the trigger button. This will then allow you to place rounds in the ammo holder. Alternatively, placing rounds into your utility pouch will allow you to dip the weapon into the pouch, replenishing it quickly and efficiently. Up next, let's take a look at making money from the radius. As simple as taking candy from a baby. Well, maybe it's not all that easy. However, I'm sure with a little bit of time and a lot of tricks, we can push your efficiency through the roof and make you into an absolute money-making machine. But before we begin, first a little overview onto why money is so important on Into the Radius. You'll need it for buying weapons and upgrades, attachments and ammunition, as well as some supplies and specific repairs back at home base. If you can out-economy the game and have plenty of money, you can go in over-prepared for every mission, every time. I'll also be covering lots of techniques to save money, which is just as important as making it. Being poor is the quickest way to make Into the Radius a very hard game. I like to work smart, not hard.
We go in, we kill, we capture.
Yeah, although that's part of the plan, the missions aren't always quite as simple as that. Before you take any trip into the radius, make sure you are carrying as many missions as you can be. During the early game, try to make sure all of your missions are in the same area. This will become harder the further you progress into the game. In either case, plan your route accordingly. Don't be afraid to bin off a mission if it is really far off route, or if supplies are starting to dwindle. You can always come back for said mission at a later date. With the exception of ones that are reset by the tide, keep an eye out for those. And always prioritise the missions that will increase your security level. They always pay out decent money and increase the quality of gear that you can buy. If you ever get to a point where you haven't got any missions that increase security level, just keep completing regular missions. They will show up eventually. Another point to note is that when you kill an enemy, it stays dead until the tide comes in. Killing enemies in an area that you intend to be doing a lot of missions in or a lot of looting in is a good idea. Be aware that some missions can spawn enemies into areas that you may have already cleared. If you are just passing through an area with no intention of looting, or if the tide is close to coming in, then remember that every bullet saved is a bullet earned. Only kill what you have to.
Yeah, boy.
The first thing to know about looting is that nearly everything in the game can be sold. During your first few runs into the radius, you want to be building up a healthy economy. The way to do that is to make sure that you take home everything that is not bolted down. Don't be too concerned about making it nice and neat and tidy. Stuff it in the bag, sort it out when you get back. The best way I've found to do this is to hang items that you are going to need off of the edge of your bag. That then gives you plenty of space in the middle of your bag to store all those items that you don't need to look at again until you get back to base. The reason I advise this is because time is one of your biggest enemies in the radius. Whilst you are out here exploring, time passes much quicker than when you are back home. Right now, fill your boots as close to 50 kilograms as you can and head on back. This is simply because at 50 kilograms you slow to a crawl and will be unable to sprint. Not very time efficient. When you get home with your first shiny bag of trash, ensure that you stockpile food, drinks, snacks and cigarettes. They are all going to help you with your stamina management and you don't want to have to buy them. Keep hold of spares of any of those essential items that you're going to need out in the radius, and also any weapon cleaning supplies. You'll only need a couple of rolls of cleaning paper and a handful of toothbrushes, but hoard that cleaning spray, you'll need plenty of that. Keep hold of ammunition and magazines for weapons that you intend to be using or intend to be using soon, and sell the rest. The only other exception here is weapons. If you are intent on using or trying out a gun that is in the orange condition, keep hold of it and repair it. That's cheaper than buying it brand new. If that is not the case, get it sold. Oh, and congratulations, you're in order. Well done for making it this far into the video. In celebration of the fact, I've decided to give you a pro tip in a musical format. I sell the guitar. It's worth 750 smackers. You want to gather around the campfire, sing a couple of songs? You can do that later. Right now there's money to be made. So yeah, cleaning. Any guns that are in the yellow condition or above will sell for more if you clean them. It's here that a little bit of elbow grease can go a long way to giving you that healthy cash balance. Do know that you can find cleaning rods out in the radius, but they are pretty rare. Only buy one if you haven't come across one yet and you've got lots and lots of cleaning to do.
We happy? Vincent! We happy?
Yeah, we happy.
As you advance through the game, your looting strategy will have to evolve. That 50 kilogram weight that I was talking about earlier will sneak up on you very fast. At this point, it's a good idea to prioritise weaponry, as well as the science equipment and secret documents. Always keep an eye out for those wooden and metal containers. They will quite often contain the aforementioned items. Healing injectors are another high priority item. You're not really going to be wanting to sell them, you're going to want to keep them so that you don't have to buy them. And let's not forget the artifacts in the anomaly clusters, they're always going to be worth taking the time to get. Some of them do have in-game uses, most of those uses are arguably garbage. The regen artifact is pretty good and is possibly worth keeping hold of. The secret stashes in the game can be another boon to your economy. Unlike the rest of the loot in the game, they are always guaranteed to be there and always in the same place. Notes like this one will give you hints as to their location within the game. Unfortunately, you can only collect them once. The tide will not reset them. And on the note of stashes, don't be afraid to create your own. I personally find the safe houses located around the map a great place to shed some weight. Just remember to go back.
Something robust, precise.
Robust, precise.
And this right here is one of the big reasons why we have been miserly with our money. As for what weapon to upgrade to, I'll leave that to you, as the balancing at the various security levels means there's no real right or wrong choice. One piece of advice I would offer is remember there is a free mode in the shooting range. Here you can play with all the weapons and their attachments before you splurge the big bucks on them. I like it! However, before you pull the trigger on that big purchase, make sure that you've got enough money to buy multiple magazines for it if you haven't got them already, and at least one big box of ammunition. Do note that it is always better to buy ammunition in big boxes as it is cheaper. As for upgrades and attachments, I personally like to go after things that improve accuracy. Getting the job done in 3 bullets as opposed to 30 is obviously going to save us a lot of money down the line. And on that note, try and take ammunition that is appropriate to the task. For instance, if the vast majority of enemies are starting to bring their armoured Technicolor Dreamcoats, you need to be one step ahead with armour-piercing rounds. Likewise, if you are relooting early areas that have been refreshed by the tide, using anything higher tier than FMJ is a waste. Progress through the security levels will unlock more protective gear. The gas mask is obviously essential for artifact hunting, that will pay for itself. Also, armour needs buying and equipping as soon as it becomes available. Reducing incoming damage will keep you alive longer, and additionally reduce the amount of healing items or sleep you need. These 3 protective items need to be bought as you cannot find them in the radius. And although these items cannot be destroyed, remember to keep an eye on their durability. The lower their durability, the less effective they become. Unfortunately, the only place to maintain those items is in the repair locker back at home. These are additional costs that we are going to have to stomach, but overall it's well worth it. As the game goes on, you will find yourself taking more and heavier items with you into the radius. However, I would advise you to always try and stick to the essentials. Only take out there what you need. The more you go out there with, the quicker you'll hit that 50 kilograms, and the sooner you'll have to return. Also note that the lighter you are, the quicker you'll move, saving more time in the place that eats it alive. For instance, if you are going to an area that you have already cleared of enemies just to do some fetch and carry missions, and grabbing any loot that you didn't get the first time round, you shouldn't need your main weapon or the mags for it, and you'll have your pistol just in case. And in that sort of circumstance, you're not going to need your helmet or your armour. One thing that you can do that'll help you zero in for always bringing the minimum is dropping a save as you leave the base. If you get to where you're going and realise you've missed 1 or 2 of the essentials, reload, grab them, try again. And if you've vastly over-prepped, you'll know for next time.
And they mostly come at night. Mostly.
A big part of a strong economy is being busy all the time. Let me ask you a quick question. Why do you sleep in the game? If your answer is, for the roleplay, you might want to skip this section. If your answer was, to get your health back, stick around. This will be an alien concept, but I think you'll like it. First off, you need to be aware that you only need to sleep to the next closest hour to gain full health in normal mode. So if we're only ever snatching little sleepies to gain our health back, that gives us an awful lot of time at night to go out looting. Now, don't get me wrong, I know this is a dangerous proposition, but hear me out. If you sleep as little as possible and are prepared to venture out at night, you have even more time to loot and complete missions before the tide comes in. To begin with, you could just venture to areas at night that you have completely cleared, so then the only real threats to you are anomalies. There are lots of light sources that you could use to make these environments a little bit more friendly, such as flashlights, pocket lamps, head torches and flares. The more you play the game in these atrocious low lighting conditions, the more familiar you'll become with it. The ultimate upshot to all of this is that areas will stay cleared once you have cleared them for longer, allowing you to loot and mission your filthy little goblin heart out.
Don't try your powers on me. Try looking into that place where you dare not look. You'll find me there staring back at you.
You mustn't speak!
So I have one last thing for you. You may find some of these techniques difficult or at the very least tedious. One of the things that you could do is adjust some choice settings just before you're about to sell things or complete missions. In the menus, go to Settings, hit the config of the difficulty. The 2 options we are looking for are item sell price, and mission money reward. Changing either of these values to highly increased will add approximately 50% more cash to your balance for missions complete and items sold. And the best part is, you can change it back, the difficulty will revert, and no one will know.
But you'll know, precious. You'll know.
Looking after that all-important health bar does not need to be a nightmare. Sleeping is the answer, and just because you can't get back to home base does not mean you are out of luck. In every map within the game there is at least one safe house, and within these safe houses there is always something resembling a bed. But do remember that time is a factor. The more you waste, the more often the tide will hit. Do bear in mind you only need to sleep to the next hour for a full heal. Plan your naps accordingly. When sleeping is no longer an option or potentially impractical, we still have 3 other options. Whilst held and primed with the trigger button, the healing injector can be stabbed into your hand or torso. Note that the effects do stack for those big quick heals whilst under fire, rare and only found in artifact clusters in the radius. The regen artifact can be activated by pressing trigger when held, and finally back at home base you can pay for a shower. When it comes to stamina replacement technology, smoking is the answer. But you don't smoke in VR. Although snacks can be consumed without a utensil, that convenience has a high cost and weight. Beef and meat are the same thing. The notable difference is that canned beef contains 10 portions, and that canned meat can only be found in the radius. Pineapple and cake are best in class for stamina replenishment, with cake only found back at home base and in limited quantity. And so pineapple is king, as it is cheapest, lightest, and readily available. Let's face it, canned goods are heavy, and eating at knife point is barbaric at best. What you may not know is that once you have extracted food from cans, you can then remove it from the tip of the knife with the grip button and place it in your bag or pouch for later. In this format, all food is lighter, takes up less space, and can be eaten without utensils. And although cake is often a lie, this cake we can take with us. All food items will not perish, but it's probably a good idea to wash your hands regularly. Love them or hate them, paparazzi missions are a quick and easy source of income. They also have the added benefit of helping you become familiar with the different enemies and their variants at a distance. Some things to note: just because the mission marker points to an area does not mean you have to take the shots there. Anything other than nice shot is a fail. The pictures need to be of live enemies, and most importantly, remember to buy and take the bloody camera with you. When it comes to selecting missions, keeping them close together and in the same area is desirable. Often accepting a mission and aborting will re-roll that mission to a different location. This technique can also change those less desirable missions to something different, as well as affecting the risk and reward. Know that there is no penalty for aborting missions in this manner, so you can do it as often as you like, and that the kind of missions offered and their location will be based on your security level. Whether it be as part of a mission, scooping up those more useful artifacts, or collecting them in order to sell, effectively finding them is an essential skill, with the vast majority found within clusters of anomalies. Ensure you clear your immediate area of enemies before using your probes around the outside of the cluster to find a practical entrance. Then continue to use probes to make your way in, using the detector to point the way. Once retrieved, simply retrace your steps to exit, and know that anomaly clusters can contain multiple artifacts. Aside from the artifacts that actually have a use in-game, the vast majority you find are just there to sell. They include the blank, the shard, the flower, the helix, the stellation, the triangle, the star, and finally, the grail. Once again, the further north the map, the higher the rarity artifact you'll find in the cluster, with the exceptions of the shard and the grail. The shard is a guaranteed drop for destroying a non-mission rift anomaly, with the grail being your reward for finishing the final mission. Out in the radius, protection comes in 2 flavors. Resistance to melee, projectiles, and explosions is handled by armor, in the form of a helmet and body armor later on, whereas the gas mask gives you immunity to gas, as well as giving you a small measure of damage reduction against most anomaly effects. The damage reduction you currently have is measured as a percentage and displayed on your watch. As you take damage, these values will decrease. Ensure you regularly repair back at home base for maximum damage reduction. Full metal jacket rounds do standard damage damage but can often struggle when it comes to penetrating armour. Armour piercing rounds do slightly less than standard damage and are usually best in class for armour penetration if available. Subsonic rounds are quietest and best paired with a suppressor. The lower velocity of the round decreases damage and speed with increased bullet drop. Copper hollow points, whilst cheap, are usually worst in class for everything. Overpressured rounds are expensive but feature increased damage as well as excellent armour penetration. Shotgun shells come in two distinct flavours. We have Buckshot in red and Solid Slug in blue. Buckshot fires a spray of pellets, ideally suited to short-range unarmoured targets, with the spread of said pellets being adjustable at the upgrade station. Solid Slug shells fire a single large bore round, which has guaranteed armour penetration and a longer effective range due to high velocity. Decreasing spread will increase Solid Slug accuracy, and for shotguns with an ammo holder, don't forget about that pouch dip. Know that the BTR is beyond any of you, which leaves us with two viable options: run or hide. Thankfully, it's only found patrolling its set route in the Kolkazaya region, and when you hear the rumble of its engine, it's time to either take cover or move. At approximately 50 meters and with line of sight, it will begin to shred you with its autocannon, and although practically indestructible, hitting it with a single round will stop it in its tracks until you get close enough for it to engage or you leave the map. The Unstuck button found in the menu will do exactly what it says on the tin. If you find yourself caught on objects or some scenery, this button will attempt to shift you away from those obstructions. But there are a couple of other uses also. You can often skip ascents and descents of scalable objects with a tactical unstuck. Additionally, you can unstuck yourself through some scenery. Use locomotion and quick turn to get in tight, then simply use unstuck for a chance of being teleported up or through. The UMPSC have a high priority attached to some items within the radius. Said items can only be sold but benefit from a reasonably good cash to weight ratio. These items include the weather monitor, the photo trap, the portable tank, the secret documents, and finally the voice recorder. Know that the further north the map, the rarer the items you can find. Also note that if you ever see this cardboard tree back at home base, you can burn it for a free portable tank. Further progress into the radius means more equipment, which means more weight. Knowing what to loot and what to leave becomes an essential skill. Artifacts and UMPSC items are no-brainers. Any kind of pistol can be stored in your backpack, clean them up to increase the sale price. Only taking one two-handed weapon on your expeditions allows you to carry 3 more. 1 in your backpack, 1 on your back, and 1 in your offhand. And don't throw away those empty packets. They have little to no impact on your weight and you can sell them for a few bucks at the shop. The radius never sleeps, and you don't actually need to either. Know that foregoing sleep has no negative side effects. However, stumbling around in the dark can be dangerous, but if you can clear specific areas, or even an entire map of enemies during the day, the only thing that you would need to worry about at night is anomalies. This gives us more time to loot and complete missions before the tide comes in. Also note, the lighting levels on the Kolkazaya and Pechorsk Castle maps are not as affected as badly as the other areas at night time. From the very start of the game, a large supply of snacks is just a stone's throw away. Start by using the stairs to get to the highest point on these cargo containers. Then line yourself up with this rail and run at it. You may need to duck slightly in real life to avoid the beam above. Work your way along the rail, turn around and aim for the bookcase. Work your way along the bookcase so you can get up onto the support beam. Head all the way to the top of this beam, drop down onto this support, and then follow it all the way to the end where you will find your reward. The secret stash is located within the radius, can often be an excellent source of supplies, weaponry and equipment. Unlike the rest of the loot in the map, they are always guaranteed to be there and always in the same place. Notes like this one with the stash header at the top will give you clues to their location and hints at their contents. Be aware that all stash locations are available from the very start of the game. Also note that they will never be lost or replenished due to the tide. finally, Pechos, pictures, and strange items. If you haven't found any of the aforementioned items on your travels, the following has been ordered in the path that you will most likely take through the radius, and for those of you who are after specific items, use the chapters to skip ahead. Holding a painting and pressing B or Y on the respective control pad will give you some information about the painting, namely the number, so you can easily find out what you have and what you need. And although none of these items actually have any in-game uses, I've compiled a small home improvements guide after all the secret locations. So, first and foremost, how the fuck are we supposed to hang these paintings? That is a good question, well phrased. If you hold one item and balance something else on top of it, after approximately 10 seconds, it will freeze in place. I personally find the big ammo boxes and the guitar guide the best items to balance things on. Your map can also be a very good tool. It has two added advantages of always being on your person and also being able to clip through items and scenery. Once an item is frozen in time and space, you can then put other things on top of it. Toothbrushes and knives make fantastic pegs and are an excellent way to display weaponry, and all those notes that you've been diligently collecting and storing make fantastic shelves. This should give you everything that you need for placement, and you'll only be limited by the depths of your imagination. Moving swiftly on to lighting. Not you PCVR Master Race. This one's for the standalone headset users. As you are no doubt aware by now, if you turn on a light source and drop it, it turns off. However, if that light source was attached to a weapon, it doesn't. Now, don't get too excited because we are limited to 4 light sources total, which is pretty good seeing as we have something that doesn't have much more processing power than a super potato. So I guess the burning question is, what happens when you turn a 5th light source on? Well, it just turns one of the other ones off. Also note that light sources that are on your person, including your headlamp, will count towards this total of 4. The PM, being the cheapest and most useless pistol, is the best candidate for buying, upgrading and attaching a rail-less flashlight to. This still comes in at an eye-watering $1,250, and if that's still seeming like a lot of money, you might want to go back and rewatch that money-making bit. Up next is security. The other piece of weapon utility that can be used independently is the laser pointer, featuring in 2 colours, red for the rail S attachment and green for the rail B attachment. Once held in the hand, press the trigger button to activate. Once activated, these will stay on indefinitely, and although I haven't found a maximum amount you can have on at any one time, buying lots of them is going to get very, very expensive. And finally, the airwalk. Simply put, if you walk off of something, you'll fall. However, if you walk around in your play space without touching either of the control sticks, you'll float. As you are no doubt aware by now, you can get up into the rafters back at Vano. Using the airwalk can help you get that precision placement that you're looking for up here. In addition, if you use the airwalk near to where all the candy bars usually spawn, you can get onto the other side of the rafters, which can then open up some placement options for you.